Form 1, also known as Shi-Cho, the Way of the Sarlacc or the Determination form, was the first and original form of lightsaber combat. This combat form was developed during the time in the Jedi Order, from ancient metal swords to contemporary lightsabers. As Shi-Cho was an experimental combat form and had been created prior to Dark Jedi and Sith Lords, it failed to address the issue of lightsaber to lightsaber combat and was quickly replaced by Form 2. Despite the development of a combat form tailored to lightsaber dueling, Shi-Cho was still used. The simplicity and basic focuses left it suited for basic training, therefore it was used to provide younglings with an introduction to lightsaber combat. Even though Shi-Cho was a basic fighting form, Kit Fisto had mastered it and perfected the style by using it to great effect in lightsaber combat and battlefield situations. Form 2, also known as Makashi, the Way of the Salamiri or the Contention form, was the second of the 7 fighting styles. It was developed for the purpose of lightsaber to lightsaber combat to correct the faults of Form 1. Makashi was the most dueling centered of the 7 forms, relying on precision and efficiency over Shi-Cho's wild sweeping motions. Form 2 allowed the wielder to defend themselves against an opponent with minimal effort, while placing a heavy focus on avoiding disarmament. Form 2 emphasized fluid movement and anticipation of a weapon being swung at its target, so it was required a very smooth motion of both blade and the body. Masters of this form often seemed so relaxed when using the style that it appeared that they were dancing. Count Dooku and his apprentice Asajj Ventress, who we see in the Clone Wars show, were the most famous to master this form. Grievous was also trained in this form, and he also used Jarkai, which was the training method for anyone that used more than one lightsaber at a time. Form 3, also known as Sarusu, the Way of the Mynock or the Resilience form, was the third of the 7 lightsaber combat styles. Sarusu was developed during the emergence of blasters. Sarusu relied on tight blade work and subtle dodges to provide the best defensive cover while minimizing ranged weapons effectiveness. It is considered the ultimate expression of non-aggressive Jedi philosophy. Sarusu utilized tight motions, lightsaber moving every second in an attempt to achieve near total protection. Form 3 stressed quick reflexes and fast positional transition in order to overcome blaster fire. Anyone who could master Sarusu would become effective at dealing with single or multiple opponents, whether they use blasters or lightsabers. A little fun fact I came across in my research too. When Darth Bane first started training Darth Zana as his apprentice, he believed that her small size and light build removed the more aggressive lightsaber forms, teaching her to wield a saber staff. He trained her to redirect attacks rather than blocking to maintain her energy. She took to twirling her weapon in order to maintain momentum, and to set up a defensive shield against enemy attacks. The most famous Jedi to use Sarusu were Obi-Wan Kenobi and Kanan Jarrus, aka Caleb Duke. Form 4, also known as Utaru or the Aggression form, an acrobatic combat style. Utaru could be used to defend against incoming projectiles, but was most suited to open spaces and attacking. Form 4 focused mainly on offense. Those who practiced this form sought to end the fight as quickly as possible rather than outlasting their opponent. At the time of Form 4, the Jedi understanding and mastery of the Force had grown significantly from when Shi-Cho was introduced. Utaru placed a greater emphasis on the use of the Force to enhance their movements in every aspect of combat. However, Form 4's defining feature was its focus on all-out offense and speed and agility. Examples of Force users that used this style of combat were Yoda, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Luke Skywalker. Also known by its primary disciplines of Sheen and Jedi-Sith was the fifth of the 7 forms recognized by the Jedi Order for lightsaber combat. It was developed by practitioners of Form 3 who felt that the defensively minded form was unnecessarily extended time spent in combat by forcing its users to wait for an opportunity to strike rather than creating their own openings. Form 5 was characterized by power attacks and defense, followed by a counter-strike. Sheen, which was considered the classic variant, was more adept at blocking blaster fire than for blade-to-blade combat, whereas Jedi-Sith was developed specifically for lightsaber combat. Some Jedi felt Form 5 encouraged aggression and domination. This, however, didn't stop from people using it. After turning to the dark side, Anakin Skywalker, now known as Darth Vader, employed an extension of Form 5, more focused on sheer power in his service to the dark side. His suit made him adjust his fighting style, which was a mashup of Form 7, 4, 3, and 2. Examples of Force users who had this style were Aayla Secura, Plo Koon, Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, and Darth Bane. Form 6, also known as Nieman, the way the Rancor, the Moderation form, or the Diplomat form, is the 6th form of lightsaber combat. This fighting style was a hybrid martial arts created by combining elements of previous forms into one form. Nieman balanced out between the best features of the other forms, covering the basic moves, focusing on an overall moderation. This resulted in a style that lacked any significant advantage, but also didn't lack any disadvantages that some of the aggressive forms would have. To compensate for the relaxed focus on blade work and lack of significant specialization, Nieman encouraged to use force-based attacks such as telekinetic pulls and shoves used with lightsaber attacks. The most famous example of a user of this style was Johan O'Tone, a Jedi Knight during the period of the Jedi-Sith War. Form 7, also known as Geo, the way of the Vornskir, or the Ferocity form, was the 7th and final form of lightsaber combat. Geo was described as the most vicious form of lightsaber combat. Knowledge of Form 7 became restricted by the Jedi Order, whose members had been worried that practices would be enticed by the dark side of the Force. In contrast, members of the Sith such as Darth Maul used Geo, as did Galen Mark, also known as Starkling. In later years, a new variation of Form 7 was created, named Vapad, after a creature native to the planet Sarpin was created by Mace Windu. Vapad was described as being in a state of mind rather than just a fighting style, which allowed the user to channel his or her inner darkness into the duel and accept the opponent's fury. Geo was once described by Darth Sidious as a Sith style, while Vapad was on the verge of the dark side. An example of a user of this style of fighting was Mace Windu, the creator of Vapad. You may ask the question, did any Force users master all the forms of lightsaber combat? Well, yes. Mace Windu, Yoda, Jedi Battlemaster Sin Dralig, and Darth Sidious, who by the way actually hated fighting with lightsabers, but to be the most powerful and ruthless Sith Lord, he had to master all his powers, and that's what he did.